Welcome into the Postgame Show presented by Ricoh, Ashlyn Sullivan, Fran Duffy, Ike Reese here with you, breaking down the second week of the preseason against the Cleveland Browns, and it ends in a tie, 18-18, but hey, we'll take it. There is a lot to talk about in this preseason game. We didn't see a lot of the starters, but when I was thinking of the headline of this game, it's that you got to see what you wanted from three key guys on defense. Nolan Smith, Nakobe Dean, Christian Ellis, all played really well, Ike.
Yeah, I think that's really what the preseason is all about, right? It's trying to find out what you have in your young players. The young players are typically going to get most of the playing time out there. And Nakobe Dean, a guy who a lot of Eagles fans are excited about this year, get our chance to see him in his first game action. I thought that first series, he found his way around the football, and that's what you want from one of your young players.
And look, this is a guy that has not played a ton in the NFL, so not only him making that big play on the goal line, guys, but also coming back. Remember, he had a penalty on the previous snap, so being able to bounce back from adversity, come back, you have that penalty in the red zone. Some young guys might get down on themselves, go in the tank a little bit. Nakobe comes right back, he sees the ball, it goes down, he gets a forced fumble on the goal line very next snap. You love to see that from a young player.
Right, and this transition for Nakobe Dean, wearing the green dot, being the middle linebacker, I can imagine it's a really tough transition, so it makes sense why he probably needed some preseason snaps to get ready for week one, Ike.
Yeah, I definitely believe that was a big part of it. You saw him out there that first series. Let me just say this, Fran. As an old linebacker myself, that should not have been a penalty. I love the play that Nakobe Dean made there. If the quarterback's going to run, make him feel it. So I like the aggression there. But what you just brought up, Ashlyn, about Nakobe wearing the green dot, he's the quarterback of the defense. So getting those game reps in, being the leader out there, getting everybody lined up, making all the calls and the checks, it was great for him to get his feet wet in that sense, because I'm not sure how much he's going to play next week, and you don't want his first game action to be week one up in New England.
Yeah, and you mentioned too, Ashlyn, that it wasn't just Nakobe, but being able to see the flashes we saw from Nolan Smith. A couple of rushes mixed in there. One led to a sack. A couple were just this close to Dorian Thompson-Robinson and getting home for a sack. So some really good things from Nolan Smith before he left with his injury in the first quarter.
That man was playing at 110
Yes.
miles per hour. You could just see how excited he was to be out there. And Christian Ellis is a guy that just keeps showing up. Since OTAs, he's been making plays, and we saw it again today.
Yeah, and Christian Ellis is going to be a fan favorite. I think he's got a great shot to make this team because he's a smart football player. He plays tough. He plays assignment football, and that's what you really want. And when you look at that linebacking group, he's certainly making the case to potentially be out there as one of those starters. But you got a young player, if nothing else, that's going to be a solid backup and be a core special teams guy. He was a guy last year that I thought flashed on special teams, made plays. So excited to watch him come out there and play. And he's earning the trust of the coaches and his teammates by getting snaps out there on defense. And to piggyback off what Fran said about Nolan Smith, I mean, every time they had a chance to get after the quarterback, you saw number three somewhere around there in that first quarter. Nolan Smith is going to be a guy that we all are excited about.
That's the thing, is that last week against the Baltimore Ravens, we were all excited talking about Jalen Carter. We saw big plays from Sidney Brown. He led the team in tackles. Tyler Steen playing a couple positions up front along the offensive line. And we all kind of forgot about, Nolan Smith. What was he doing? He had that one great rush, and he was this close to getting a sack fumble last week. Well, you can kind of tell maybe he felt like, I was a little underappreciated for what I did a week ago. Let's come back and come back with a strong performance here in week two.
Absolutely. And this week, it was a busy week for the Eagles. Joint practice with the Browns, two of them. And it's kind of hard to pick a superstar, an all-star from joint practices. But man, Sidney Brown has had a heck of a week. You mentioned leading the team in tackles, 9 tackles last week. He calls himself a self-proclaimed missile on the field. He makes me a little nervous, I won't lie, but in a good way.
Yeah.
This is a guy that's really exciting.
Yeah, and he's another guy that I think is going to find his way onto the field. I don't know if it's going to be as a starter, but when you play with the type of reckless abandon that he plays with, and I don't mean that in a negative way, I mean that in the way that you want your defensive players to play, that they don't normally get to play in today's game. He plays with a certain ferocity out there on the field. I love his comments last week that I'm not looking to injure anybody, right? But I want you to feel me when I arrive there. And so to have that type of mentality out there, I think he's going to be a guy that we all love watching play. Didn't have as many flash plays this week as he had last week, but you talk about the young players and how they've shown up. You think about the 3 or 4 guys we talked about from last week's game, we had a whole new crop of guys to talk about this week, and I think the future is bright for us when we look at the young players that are being developed.
And what I like about Sidney Brown and with Christian Ellis as well, we talk about how they both play so fast. They're always flying to the football. Are they perfect players right now? No. They're going to have their share of mental mistakes, missed tackles, some physical mistakes as well, right? But if they're going to make a mistake, they're going to make a mistake going full speed, 100 miles an hour, and you love to see that from your young guys on defense.
And I tell you, people watch those guys play, and they talk about, well, he missed tackles. He seems like he's playing out of control. Let me tell you, I played for the great Jim Johnson. Jim Johnson would chew you out if you broke down to make a tackle. He didn't want you to stop your feet, run through the player. If everybody is doing their job on the play, you know what's going to happen? As long as Sidney or Christian Ellis takes the right leverage to the ball carrier, and if the pursuit is coming, even if he misses the tackle, the guys running to the football are going to make the tackle.
Yeah, last week, very first play, right? Remember they threw that little screen pass to the wide receiver, Zay Flowers in the flat, and Christian Ellis comes flying downhill. He misses the tackle, but he came at it outside in, forced the receiver back inside, and Nicholas Morrow is there to make the play, right to your point, Ike.
And I think sometimes when you play that fast, or put it the other way, when you break down on a player to try to make a tackle, the offensive players in this league are so great at one-on-one and making you miss tackles. What's the point of breaking down? Again, as long as you have the proper leverage on the ball carrier, your teammates should be coming to the ball as well to make the tackle. You got a better chance of clipping that guy or getting a nice hit on him by not breaking down and just running through him. Again, I can still hear Jim Johnson yelling, don't break down, run through the ball carrier, run through the proper leverage.
I love it. And Eagles fans, we know you have a lot of questions, so go ahead in the YouTube comments or wherever you're watching, put the questions in the comments for Ask Ike presented by Pond Lee Hockey. We will get to them, and I'm sure there's going to be some comments on cornerback Tanner McKee, another great performance. And I go back to what Coach Sirianni said during joint practice, that he really appreciated how he went into the moment in last week's preseason game, didn't act like a rookie, act like he had been there before, and we saw that again, just calm, composed, and got the job done.
I'm learning about Tanner McKee, and I'm becoming a bigger fan each week. Last week, I thought he did a nice job in his first action out there, put some points on the board last week, and this week, he backed that up with another good performance. And the thing, when you watch him play, he seems to be decisive when he wants to go with the football. He's not careless with the football, so you're not seeing turnovers out there. And he seems to have a rapport with his receiver. So when you get that from a quarterback this early, you got to feel like you got a lot that you can build on and work with there. His baseline is pretty good right now for a young player.
Yeah, I remember watching Nick Foles back in 2011 at the University of Arizona and seeing a guy who was kind of like body type, prototypical pocket passer, but he was really tough. He had some good touch to him, some deceptive athleticism. He wasn't going to win a ton of races, but he had the ability to kind of make a guy miss and just pick up 4 yards if he needed 3, right? And I feel like when you look at Tanner McKee, he checks a lot of those same boxes. You're seeing him really play confident, play fast, play loose, and you're seeing some of the touch throws, both from the pocket and on the run, that really have allowed him to be a playmaker in this offense. I'm excited to see what he can continue to build on for the rest of the summer.
Yeah, it's been 2 great weeks in a row for Tanner McKee, and really, right now in the preseason, you're really looking at starting jobs up for grabs. And there are a lot of great battles right now. And one that is so interesting that I can't seem to figure out, it seems like it changes every week, is this running back rotation. And we see someone like Trey Sermon who fumbles but bounces back with a touchdown and really helped himself out today.
Yeah, and I like Trey Sermon, but listen, you got to keep that ball off the ground. You got to keep the ball off the ground. Ball security is job security. But you see that there's potential there. There's a talent there. He obviously has the pedigree. He comes from a great program in the Ohio State Buckeyes. There's talent in there, but you got to put it all together. I thought tonight he showed some flashes. He had a nice run to score for a touchdown there. I think he has a chance to make the team, but it's crowded at that running back position. So you're going to have to do the best you can with the opportunities that you get. And when you get those opportunities, you can't make mistakes there. I thought Trey Sermon had a nice bounce back game tonight.
Can I tell you what I loved most about the 2-play sequence, right? So he puts the ball on the ground, he loses the fumble, right? And then he comes back and he scores the touchdown. The first guy that was right there was Jamal Singleton, the running back coach, to love him up after.
Absolutely. All right, let's now go to Marcus Mariota, the press conference over at Link.
Hey, Marcus, what's your assessment of your play out there tonight?
Sloppy. And I can do a better job of getting our guys operating cleaner and more efficiently. But but that's what preseason's for, being able to kind of get some of that stuff ironed out, clean off some of the rust, and we'll find ways to get better.
You had a couple overthrows. Is it a mechanical thing? What's the issue?
No, I just, I think looking at it, just missed it. And sometimes that's what it is. And when you take a look at tape, we can kind of break down the mechanics. But right now, for me, I just missed the throw.
Did it seem like you were running quite as much, or was that an intentional thing, trying to work more in the pocket tonight?
Not necessarily. I think that's just kind of how the game went. Moving forward, I know I can kind of use both my legs and my arm. And if need be, whatever kind of calls for it, I'll do.
Big picture, how do you feel the acclimation process is going overall into this offense?
Yeah, it's taking it one day at a time. There's going to be good days, there's going to be bad days. And just being able to learn from it, I think that's what's most important. For me in this role, I have to be able to just go out there and operate cleanly. And I think that's what's great for me in these preseason games, that it creates an opportunity for me to get real live reps, to get those experiences, so that if need be, if I got to come in, I can operate cleanly and just get in and out of the huddle and making sure we're running efficiently.
What did you think of the way McKee played in the second half? Just watching him and everything.
Yeah, I thought he did great. Gave our guys chances to make plays, was moving the ball, and made some big-time plays in critical situations. And I think that's really cool for him as a young guy. And like I said, I think for our entire group, it's just being able to learn from every scenario and every situation. The more that he gets his experience and the more that he plays, the more he'll feel comfortable in this system. So I thought he did a great job today, and we'll continue to learn as a group.
This isn't obviously your first stop in the NFL. How has this, in comparison to some of those other first years that you've had in previous stops, how has this process been compared to those?
That's a great question. I'm not really one that reflects a lot, especially when you're in the middle of it. But for me personally, I love the quarterback room. I think it's great. I think Brian and Tanny do a great job of kind of outlining what is the expectation for us at the position. So for me, just again, I'm learning as I go, and I'm learning through these experiences. And good, bad, or indifferent, I'll take it on the chin and just learn.
A couple scary moments out there with some injuries tonight. What was your perspective with Tyree?
Your heart goes out to them first and foremost, and you just think about your teammate. We play a game, and it's a blessing to be playing a game, but, when these situations get like that, it is scary. So, you think about him, and you pray for him, and you hope from a health standpoint that he's okay. Thank you, guys. Have a good
That was Marcus Mariota at the podium, and we were just talking about Marcus Mariota and his play during joint practice this week, and of course struggled tonight in this game. And Marcus Mariota, a little inconsistent so far this preseason, but you watch him against the Browns in joint practices, he had some better days. It's clear that he is a running quarterback. He does best with his legs, has trouble at times in the pocket with accuracy, but that's what he talks about with these game reps. He needs them too, Ike.
Yeah, and that's why he's out there, to get more comfortable in this offense and what's being asked of the quarterback within the offense. And you're right. I thought his second week, coming off of the preseason game last Saturday to this week in joint practices, he did have a much better week of practice going up against the Browns' #1 defense. I thought he was decisive at times with the ball. But you're also going to see where Marcus Mariota brings that extra element to the position. When something's not there in the passing game, he can use his legs to extend plays and extend drives by picking up first downs. But when you have opportunities to hit the open guys, he has to be able to do that. He knows that. He's a veteran, and I guarantee you he'll continue to work on that aspect of his game, because I believe Marcus Mariota will be here as our backup quarterback. But you're trying to get these younger guys developed as well, so you got to be able to be pinpoint with your accuracy to give these guys an opportunity to be evaluated fairly.
Yeah, and to your point, you mentioned the joint practice, and that's really the value of having those practices as well, is that, tonight, what do we see? 12, 13 throws from Marcus Mariota. Well, we saw 50-plus throws from Marcus Mariota over the course of 2-day session with the Browns. And so there's a bigger sample size at work than just what we saw tonight. But I think at the end of the day, you use those joint practices. You want to be able to carry that over under the lights for game day. But at the end of the day, like you said, Marcus Mariota knows the things that he's got to improve on moving into next week and into the regular season.
Right, and even when you take the on-the-field performance off the table and you just look at his veteran presence in a meeting room. I mean, you played in the NFL. You know how valuable that is when you have different opinions in a quarterback room. We all see the potential of Tanner McKee, but to have now 2 vets with Jalen Hurts and Marcus Mariota in there, it's only going to help the room, and I'm sure that's why they give him that contract, is because he's been there, done that situationally in the NFL.
Yeah, I agree. I think you bring a vet in because you want somebody that adds a calming presence to that position. So you got a veteran there. And I think Marcus was someone that the organization targeted because he also fits somewhat of the profile and the style of quarterback that we play in this offense. So if something unfortunately were to happen to Jalen where he had to miss a game or two, at least now you don't have to change the entire offense. Marcus Mariota slides right in there and should be able to run this offense efficiently. I think back to 2017, Fran, and you may remember Nick Foles struggled in training camp that summer. It was his first year back here. Did not look great in training camp that summer. And we obviously know what happened later in the year when he had to come in and play. I only say that to say, and I think Nick had an elbow issue that summer as well. So I only say that to say what Marcus Mariota looks like right now doesn't necessarily mean that's what he's going to look like in November or December when he's had more time in his offense to get acclimated to everything. Again, hopefully you don't necessarily need him any crunch situations, but if you get to that point, hopefully he's ready to go.
And Nick Foles wasn't the only vet that summer that didn't. Patrick Robinson was not great that summer in training camp, and he was going to be the starting nickel corner or starting outside corner until the team traded for Ronald Darby and they slid him into the slot. But all this to say that veterans are veterans, right? And sometimes you also don't know what guys are working through, what they're trying out, whether it's practice or preseason games. There's a lot of factors that come into play that us on the outside we aren't always aware of. And so I think that's something to take into account as well.
Yes, we now have our first Ask Ike question on social media presented by Pond Lee Hockey. All right, Ike, as a former NFL player, what is a player's mindset this far into training camp? What are you thinking?
I think veteran, it depends on where you are in your career. You know, if you're a veteran, you're still trying to work through some things to get yourself ready for the beginning of the season, especially if you're a guy that you're probably going to make the team. If you're a young player, you're trying to take it day by day and get better each day. You're working on the smaller things. You almost have to block out the big picture and focus in and narrow in on the here and now. So as a younger player, I think their approach is a lot different. They are certainly focused on the here and now. And when you're a veteran, you almost know what you have to do to get yourself ready for the beginning of the season. Football is the only sport where the preseason and the practice, everybody scrutinizes it. Like in spring training, for example, if a pitcher gives up 3 home runs in the game, you can easily pass it off as, well, he was trying to work on a new pitch. So the results don't really matter. He may give up a home run, but it doesn't really matter, right? So, but in football, we look at what the quarterbacks do in practice all the time, and we almost try to project that's what it's going to be. We got to give these guys a little bit of time to work through some things, work through some rust, and when the season starts, that's when you really got to be able to be critical of them.
And when you were a player, like it wasn't as much of a fishbowl as it is now, right? In terms of like social media and like one-on-one rep getting caught on Twitter and it goes viral. But was that in your mind though, as a player, that like, hey, you know what? If I am trying something out, the fans in Lehigh are going to see it, and now I'm going to hear about it from the media this week. Is that something that was going through your mind?
It was not, and the good thing about training camp back then, we didn't have the social media aspect. It wasn't as much video of what we were doing in practice. And believe me, it was enough pressure trying to keep those coaches off your back and making mistakes. So for me, it was less to do about outside noise. I just didn't want to be the guy that coach was, pointing out on film, like, what are you doing here, Reese? What are you doing? Like, so, it's like getting your playbook. As a young player back then, and here's the other thing, we had more time to practice back then.
Yep.
So what you did in the morning that may have been bad, you knew you had the afternoon practice to go out there and correct it. That's the other thing with the players. They don't have as much time on the field to get these things right. You get more time in the classroom, but that's why it's more imperative that when you're out there on the field, you got to take advantage of that time when you're out there.
Right, and you mentioned that player mindset and where they are right now, and it's so different for a rookie or a guy fighting to make the roster or starting job. I imagine with these vets now that we're past the second preseason game, everyone is looking to that joint practice against the Colts on Tuesday as kind of like the last hurrah before the regular season, right?
Yeah. And the players love the joint practices. You know, I played for Big Red. He was never big on joint practices. I still don't think Andy does joint practices.
Very rarely. Every once in a while I'll see him, but not often.
Right. So in Atlanta we did them, and in my rookie year we did them with Ray Rhodes being here with Buffalo, and in Atlanta we did it with Tennessee back-to-back years. I always enjoy it. Right? Like, it's one thing to go up against your teammate every day. That gets boring after a while. You know, he knows what you're going to do. You know what he's going to do. When you bring a different color helmet in there and somebody to sort of go against, your juices get going. So I think the players actually enjoy the joint practices more than the preseason games, right? Like, it's the controlled environment of a joint practice allows you to get the feel of a game while also not having to worry as much about some younger player out there going 1,000 miles per hour when you're really just trying to get through the preseason game healthy.
And not only do the players like it more, but the coaches like it more too.
Yeah.
Because you look at tonight as a perfect example, right? So the Eagles, they have that ability to have that 2-minute offense with Tanner McKee. All right, we're going to go out. Well, they didn't succeed, right? They get sacked on 3rd down. Now they have the decision. Do we go for it on 4th and a mile, or do we punt the ball away, play for the tie, and give our defense the chance to have a 2-minute drill, right? So you have that ability to, in that situation, you got to play situational football. You don't always get that chance in a preseason game, but when you go to a joint practice, you could script out, all right, we're going to have 10 third-down plays against an opposing team's defense. Half of them are going to be 3rd and 1, half of them are going to be 3rd and long, and now we're going to move on. All right, we got our 3rd down stuff all repped out for this week. We feel good about the starters. We can kind of put that to bed.
Yeah, and to Fran's point, those controlled situations, the 1s and the 2s are going to get a lot of those reps.
Right.
So, you know, Jalen, he hasn't played in these 2 games, but he's gotten to do goal line. He's gotten to do 2-minute drill.
All right, let's now go back to Lincoln Financial Field and hear from quarterback Tanner McKee.
What's the field of that shirt? Sorry? The shirt, what's the field there?
See, I don't know. I've had this since high school. And it's kind of just like, reminding me of just like living the dream, like just being on the field. Like I could be anywhere working and I get to go play football for my job. So it's kind of I like this shirt.
How do you assess your performance tonight?
Thought I got to watch the film because I feel like there's a lot of things when I watch film. I'm like, well, yeah, maybe I should have done this, or maybe I thought overall, thought it was a decent game. I felt pretty good as far as, you know, managing the offense and everything. Obviously, a couple that I wish I had back, and I wish, you know, I could go again. But overall, just thought it was a decent, but definitely a lot to improve on.
2 loss, Tanner. Looks like, especially for a rookie, process pretty quickly. The football comes out pretty quickly. Do you feel that way? That you're seeing things like that?
I think for me, a little bit of my game, my job as a quarterback is to get the football into the playmakers' hands. They're a lot faster and can make guys miss and a lot of other things when they have the ball in their hands. So I feel like my job is a distributor to be able to put the ball in their hands and, you know, let those guys go do what they do.
How do you think you balance staying in the pocket, waiting for your receivers to get open versus holding it too long?
I mean, I feel like every quarterback kind of has that mental timer. Knowing when you hit the top of the drop, you only have so many seconds. I feel like our big guys did a great job today. Was really excited the way that they played. I'm going to watch it on film. Maybe there were some times I shouldn't have escaped or left a little early, or maybe could have stayed in the pocket. But, you know, we'll see and, you know, watch those plays and hopefully learn and grow and progress.
What do you find to be the biggest differences from college so far?
The biggest differences, I mean, I've said this once. I feel like in college there's always that one player that was like, you know, we might have to scheme against this guy because, you know, he's big, he's fast, he's an NFL type player. And then you get out here and everybody's, you know, tall, big, and fast. There's not like, oh, you know, that corner is, you know, super short, so we can just throw a fade over the top because, you know, he doesn't have the height. Everybody kind of has all the tools. And so you really got to rely on, I think, the fundamentals of in college, I don't feel like my timing as a drop mattered as much as it does in the NFL. If I'm off just with a little bit, if I cross over on my 3-step when I should have done, a chop timing, then I feel like it makes a big difference. Whether in college, I feel like, I can make it up with my arm or something like that. But in the NFL, everybody's so good and so fast. Those windows open and close so quickly that you really have to, I think timing's the biggest thing.
When you approach a game, do you think about playing for a job in the NFL or just trying, because that's part of the equation here. You think about, okay, this is what I got to do in this situation. How much of it goes into both of those?
I think for me, I just want to play my best and reach my potential. As far as depth chart and who makes the team and everything like that, that's going to be out of my hands. So I'm just going to try to go out, play my best ball, and then control what I can control.
Control that though.
Yeah, but the decisions I don't control. But obviously, I'm gonna try to play to my potential.
What are your expectations for yourself, though, if you do perform to your abilities?
Yeah, I mean, I would say as a quarterback, have no mental errors, have a clean operation, no pre-snap penalties. I have to make sure everyone's in the right spot. Just things that require no talent have to require no talent, if that makes sense. Get everybody at player line. Don't have any delay of game penalties. Don't forget emotion or things like that. So I feel like as a quarterback, if you don't take ownership over that, then the players aren't going to take ownership over that. So when I feel like I know the offense in and out, I feel like the guys are going to, either if they have to ask me a question, I'm going to know the splits and the route depth and everything for everything that everybody's going to run.
You're obviously a very good athlete, but the other guys in the room, Jalen and Marcus and Ian, probably a little bit faster than you, right? Do they?
For sure.
Do they sort of tease you about that in the room? Is that like
I get teased a little bit on the team sometimes. Fred, who's one of our offensive tackles, says he's faster than me. But I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, it's been fun. All the guys on the team are great, and I've really enjoyed being their teammate.
No, is it like you're all running the same offense, but you have sort of different skill sets? How does that sort of complicate like the teaching?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a different style of play, obviously. I think they do a great job of adapting, the play calls to what I do best, and obviously when Jalen gets in there or when Marcus or Ian are in there. But I think it's just, play to your skill set, and, maybe I have a different mindset of maybe I want to try to squeeze this in there instead of scramble and make a few guys miss. I feel pretty confident in my ability to run. I wouldn't say I'm trying to run every time I get the ball. I want to get the ball out of my hands. I feel like everybody else can, make guys miss a little bit better than I can. But yeah, that's.
You had those fakes though.
I try to. It's my high school coach.
The things you're doing in a game, how much of that do you think is because of what you're learning from guys like Jalen and Marcus?
I think it's huge. Having both of those guys in the room, I think, is very beneficial for a rookie like me. I think my job right now especially is to be a sponge from those guys. Just what they're thinking pre-snap, what they're thinking post-snap. There are a ton of times where in practice Jalen or Marcus will make an adjustment, and I'm back there thinking, why do I think they would have made that adjustment? And the adjustment works perfect. And so just picking their brain afterwards of why did you see this? Was it like a backer that was boss? Was it an alignment? What was it? Because they have so much experience in the NFL that maybe I didn't see that in college, or just pick up on little details that I didn't really think about that I think can really help my game in the future.
What about this? Example of doing that tonight with Marcus?
Yeah, I feel like there were a few examples of the game last Saturday of just seeing guys aligned and seeing safeties rotated a little bit, and Marcus is basically saying, when I see the backer this way and the safety with this depth, there's only two coverages that they can be in. And so in my mindset, I'm expecting this coverage, and then if it's not that, then I know it has to fall down to plan B, and then I can play ahead of the game type thing.
What about this system do you find is suiting your skill set so far?
I love the variety. I love how we can make adjustments on the fly. We have plays that have automatic, adjustments to them, or just in the middle of the play, a receiver can change his stem or his depth or anything based off the coverage or the type of defense, which I think is really beneficial for obviously a quarterback and for a receiver. And I just feel like when you run the offense well, it's obviously unstoppable because we should have answers for everything the defense can throw at us.
Yeah, thanks, Darren.
Thank you so much, everybody. Appreciate it.
Quarterback Tanner McKee leading 2 touchdown drives today in the preseason game, and maybe an offensive tackle is faster than him. We might find that out this week at joint practice, we hope. But a lot of fans asking about Nolan Smith and the status of his injuries. Let's go back to the locker room and hear from him himself.
Oh, I'm feeling good. I know everybody worrying about my shoulder injury. They just took me out for precaution reasons. It's still getting loosened up, man, like I tell people. And once they just pulled me and they told me I wasn't going back in, I really got kind of down on myself. I got sad because, I want to go. And I felt like I had a real good, first and second quarter. I felt like I was rushing well. And it's been good, man. You got guys like Sweat and Haas just giving me all the keys to success.
That is great news from Nolan Smith. That is a guy you don't want to see injured, and definitely made everyone a little nervous watching that game broadcast. So great news that he is healthy, because Ike, this is a guy we want to see more from.
Yeah, and just real quick, not only Nolan, there's several other players that went down tonight, so hopefully we'll get good news about those guys as well coming off the field. But this kid is just somebody that I think we're all going to be excited to watch play. Reminds me so much of Hassan Reddick, who's already on this team. His ability to be versatile, to be an outside pass rusher, have the athleticism to play off the ball as a linebacker, drop back in coverage at times. We'll see how great he is at being able to cover guys if he has to do that. But he's a tremendous athlete. And this young man still has a lot of football in him to play. That's the one thing about Nolan Smith, is that you see all of the potential. You just want him to be able to stay out there on the field. Didn't get to play his full last season at Georgia, but he's going to be pretty good.
All right, let's now go back to Lincoln Financial Field and hear from head coach Nick Sirianni.
With somebody like Marcus, who's been around the league and won NFL games, but clearly he struggled in these 2 games here, how do you balance those two?
It's also it's us finding out what he does well too, right? What he sees well, what looks good to him. And so, I know he didn't play the way he wanted to play tonight. I wouldn't say he struggled the last game. You guys might have said that. I didn't say that. Because I thought he ran around, made some good plays and we moved the ball really well with him in there against Baltimore. So tonight, obviously not up to his standard. But it's about us finding what works for him, and that's just us learning him, and so that's us working together to figure that out.
How are Tyree and Dylan?
We'll get you all that. Like I said, Bob will give you some information on that here in a little bit. But I haven't talked to the doctors yet. But it sounds like they're moving around. All right, I mean I can give you that, but. I don't know anything else besides that.
It was an atypical night, though, in terms of the amount of injuries. What was it like on the sideline with all of them?
Yeah, you never want to see that. Your heart goes out to everybody that gets hurt in a game, and because they're working so hard to make the football team. So that's tough. That's tough for the team. That's tough for myself. That's tough for the coaches, because you care about these guys and you want to see them succeed, and then to have injuries, that's always tough. A lot of guys had to play in a lot of plays. It was a long game with a lot of plays, and so we'll hope that they're not too long term, and hopefully they get back and better.
Tanner just said that one of the things he likes about the offense is that there's a lot of answers that are given to the quarterback. With an offense like that, though, you have receivers that have to break off routes based off coverages. They have to have some sort of chemistry, be on the same page. The turn, he's got to know. So there's a lot for him to know. Are you surprised that he's so far advanced at this point?
No, we did our homework on him. We knew how sharp he was. And we really liked the way he threw the ball, and so. No, and you see it in practice, right? And so we're not surprised by it, because we treat the practice like a game, and we've seen him. We felt really good about how he's looked in practice to this date, and so obviously pleased with how he played. I think he was 10-18, but there were some drops there. I don't know. You guys would know better than me. Maybe 3 or 4 or 5. So the ball was going to where it needed to go. It was accurate. He had some really nice throws into some tight coverage.
You've been around a lot of young quarterbacks over your time. Is he ahead of schedule when it comes to processing, getting the football out? To me, to the naked eye, it seems that way.
Yeah, like I said, I think what you're seeing again now are the defenses a little different now in preseason than they are going to be in the regular season. Of course, right? People are going to play more basic and more play a little safer. So, what I would say is again, I'd see the ball consistently going to the right spot on time, and that's what you want for your quarterback when with accuracy. And so he can make all the throws. He can see it. And so he's been going good. To compare him to anybody else based off of 2 preseason games, I don't want to go there. But am I pleased with how he's looked and what he's doing? Of course.
You seem pretty amped up when McKee made his play near the goal line. What was behind that?
Yeah, just excited for him to he's our guy, and excited for him that he's out. He was able to get out there and not being able to play last game, and go out there and make a play and make a big game-changing play. And so, that's what why we drafted him. That's what we anticipate him being, and we're going to need him to do that to play like we want to play on defense.
I haven't spoken to you since the joint practices. What do you think about the performance on Tuesday versus Monday?
Yeah, I thought defense was good on both days. I did, and then I didn't think it was up to our standard on the day before, or was it Monday? On Monday as an offense, but like I said, credit to Cleveland. They got some really good players, and but definitely a better day offensively the next day. So I was just pleased with the way the guys responded, and when why do you respond like that? Well, because you got great leaders on this football team. Starting with Jalen and Jason Kelsey and Lane and Brandon and Fletch, and they just really got everybody going, and that was exciting to see, because you're going to have ups and downs through a season. You're going to have adversity, and we treated it like, hey, here's the first half. We didn't play up to our standard in the first half. Let's go out in the second half and play. And so, hopefully those lessons can carry you through a long season.
So you're big on competition, Nick. Does Tanner have a shot of earning the number 2 job, or is that kind of we're way too early?
Yeah, you're way too early on that. Marcus is our backup, and pleased with the way Tanner's playing.
You had 11 penalties today. I think 5 or 6 pre-snap.
Yeah.
A lot of backup players, obviously. So where's your concern level?
Yeah, those will drive you crazy as a coach. They'll drive you crazy as a team, right? And so, I wouldn't, again, you're always concerned when you have. You never want to have things that we always talk about this. Don't master the things that require no talent, right? And so pre-snap penalties, we believe that's one of those things, and so. We got to figure out what happened. Was it the cadence? Was it Tyler? What was it? We'll figure out what happened. There's early talks of it, obviously, because you're trying to get it fixed during the game. But you never want to see those. And then going to the field goal. Now the guy missed the one again. But I mean, those are just penalties those are things that get you beat. And so, great opportunity, for everybody, the guys that played and the guys that didn't play, to learn from that. But we'll spend a ton of time talking about that, right? And so master the things that require no talent, so your talent can shine. And we got to get those little minor things fixed, because they become big things.
You said the other day you need to see these linebackers play. What have you learned about that group this week?
Yeah, I like that group. I do. I like that group. I think that, I think they're battling. I really like what Nakobe looks like. I really like how Zach Cunningham played tonight. Nick Morrow, Christian Ellis, they've Miles Jack. I'm really looking forward to letting that continue to play out. And I just think they're, especially with Zach and with Miles, they're just learning the system more, and you're seeing them be able to make more plays. And so I'm really excited about that group.
What did you think about Trey Sermon's run tonight? Did he help himself a little bit running back?
Yeah, I was really happy with Trey. The fact that he bounced back. He fumbled the ball on the screen. A guy made a good play on it, but we weren't quite tight enough with our ball security right there. And he played the next play. The worst thing you can do is put your head down and not sulk in the play that that you didn't make. All you can do is really play the next one. So that was a great lesson for him and a great lesson for our team to keep going. And a couple really nice runs that he had. So yeah, that's good momentum for Trey. Obviously, he'd want to have the fumble back, but good momentum from him to finish out this preseason with.
Last one, Ed. Nick, what went into the decision to start Zach at linebacker? Is it just an indication of how far he's come since he's been here?
Yeah. And so, and like I said, they're all still battling, right? We wanted him to, Zach to be in with a guy that he didn't have to make the calls. So Nakobe was a good guy that he could be in with, where Nakobe can get all the calls, make all the calls. But yeah, Zach's played well, and one of the reasons why he was in there today, because he's played really well, and so really excited about where he is. He got a couple hands on balls, and I thought he made some nice plays tonight. And I also thought he made some nice plays in the joint practices, getting some hands on the football. Right, he's long. Right, going back to when we would go against him when we were in Indy and he was in Houston. Like, he was a body that you had to throw around, and because it was hard to throw over top of him because of his length. And so we saw that in the joint practices where I think Reed had an interception off of one of them, and somebody else did. Reed had both of them off of the pick, off the tip. So, I really like how he dissects plays and gets to the ball, and he's making good strides.
All right, thanks, folks.
Thanks, everybody.
We're done in here.
That's it.
Well, you just heard Nick Sirianni talk about in his press conference, Nakobe Dean saying he is our guy, and we were excited for that game-changing play. So let's look at that game-changing play in Ricoh Review.
All right, so let's go all the way back to the opening drive of the game here for the Ricoh Review, where we're going to look at a forced fumble on the goal line from second-year linebacker Nakobe Dean. You see him lined up here in the end zone. Now, the Cleveland Browns, they're going to run a downhill run. This is going to come right at Nakobe Dean in the B gap. This is called duo. This is a big boy power football run where you're going to get a double team on the nose tackle, and you're going to get the offensive tackle on that side. He's going to try and get up to Nakobe Dean at the second level. Now, he's going to get held up a little bit here by Kentavius Street, who does a nice job of kind of running interference here. But I love how fast Nakobe Dean sees this play and triggers. Watch, as we let this run, you're going to see Nakobe Dean is actually going to move before the snap. He knows what's coming. He is already making a beeline for the football. There's the double team at the point of attack. There's Kentavius Street getting a piece of the right tackle. You can see the right tackle. He's got eyes for Nakobe, but because of how fast Nakobe Dean recognizes this play, he sees it's going to be duo. This is my alley. This is the gap that I've got to go make this play. Well, now playmakers do what they do best. He's going to go and make this play. Watch as Nakobe Dean is going to trigger downhill as we let this run, and he's going to get that outside arm on the ball, punch it out, get it on the ground, and the Eagles get a turnover right in their own end zone in the shadow of their own goalpost. Kayvon Wallace, Johnny on the spot, gets the fumble recovery, and the Eagles get a turnover on the opening drive of the game. Outstanding job there from Nakobe Dean on the goal line to get the ball back for the offense.
A great game for linebacker Nakobe Dean as we now look forward to next week with our Jameson nightcap, the last week of the preseason. We can almost smell the regular season in the air, but we got one more week, and the Indianapolis Colts come to town for a joint practice on Tuesday and a preseason game on Thursday, the finale of the preseason. This is kind of like a reunion tour. You have former Eagles offensive coordinator Shane Steichen now as the head coach. You have Gardner Minshew now confirmed as the backup quarterback. Eagles fans know him well. So, Ike, this is going to be an interesting week.
Yeah, and I think it's only one joint practice for these guys. So it's great to have Coach Steichen back. We're always being indebted for him and what he did for us last year, helping us get to the Super Bowl. But this is another opportunity for our first and second teamers to get some real good action in with a good joint practice next week. Most of those guys probably won't see any action in the final preseason game. So this is really next week's joint practice is like a final tune-up for them to really kind of cut it loose and let it go against an opposing team or opposing helmet color versus going against your own guys.
Yeah, Jalen Hurts, he's going to get reps against a Gus Bradley defense, a lot of talent on that defense, and they're going to play fast. They're going to play a lot of cover 3, zone coverage. Jalen is going to have to go back and just drop back and rip it, right, against a zone coverage team that likes to fly around. Then the defense, they're going to be trying to corral Anthony Richardson, who's been named the starter, and apparently he's been having a very good camp. We'll see if Jonathan Taylor is he. Apparently he's supposed to make his return to Indianapolis this week, so that will be a storyline that the Colts media will be following this week as well in Philadelphia.
Oh yeah, it's going to be an exciting week here in Philly. One more preseason game to go, and that is a wrap for the Postgame Show presented by Ricoh. For Ike Reese, Fran Duffy, I am Ashlyn Sullivan. Have a great night, and we will see you next week.